putting now. And I'm going to turn it over to Paul and take it away, Paul and Sequoia.
Cool. Thank you, Scott. And I want to start by acknowledging Scott and Emily as two of the most magnificent relationship coaches that I know. And I think I'm pretty friggin' fantastic as a relationship coach. Being modest, but when I get stuck, I go to Scott for help. So, and I think that that's part of what we all need is when we get stuck, we need that outside coach, that outside point of view. So how many of you on the call, and this is like for the beginning, just raise your hand or whatever. How many of you have ever had your heart broken? Any of you? How many more than
sure.
Cool. I'm not cool, but I want to acknowledge you for being courageous, because the act of love is a courageous act, especially after you've had your heart broken more than once. It's almost, I look at it like going into the kitchen and putting your hand on a hot stove after you've had your hand burnt like 3 or 4 times and go, this time it's going to be different. So, before we dive in and tell a little bit about ourselves, I want to tell one last paradigm thing that is setting up the call. For a lot of people, we were conditioned culturally to believe that relationships, like when you find the perfect person, what happens? You meet the perfect person and then you live what?
Happily ever after.
Yeah, Walt Disney is like perfectly. And if there's a problem, then you must not be with the right person. Well, what I want to do is, and we're going to offer you a different paradigm, but relationships as a hero's journey. And on a hero's journey, if there's problems, it's all part of the journey, right? You know, you look at the Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or any of the other hero's journey work. The hero's journey, it's full of twists and turns and adventures and upsets and challenges. And that is the model that we work with when we're teaching about relationships. So let's see. And by the way, I'm looking at notes here, just so if you looked at, yep, I'm looking at my notes. And what I'd like to do is have you, there's a chat box, you can get to it down at the bottom, and just type in where you're calling in from, if you would, so that we can see where everybody's from. Scott knows where everybody's from, but Sequoia and I don't, so that'd be cool if you could just.
So to start it off for us, we live in Santa Cruz, California. So that's where we're located.
Cool. So can we tell you just a few minutes about how we got here on our journey? So do you want me to start it?
Yeah, you start.
Okay. So I'm going to start at a point in my life where life, I thought, from the outside looked good. Like I traveled around the world. I was an international consultant. The company that I worked with charged people $10,000 a week for me to show up and spend a week with them. So I was in a lot of ways looked really successful. In fact, at one point I was sent out to Russia as a US delegate for the Soviet American Citizen Summit Peace Dialogue. And what gets me is the irony of that is I was sent to Russia to talk about peace, and I couldn't find peace in my own house with my own ex-wife at the time. I didn't really know how to communicate differently, and it took a long time. I went through 1 divorce, 3 broken engagements, and started to feel like something must be broken, something must be wrong with me. And it wasn't until I discovered something called nonviolent communication and Marshall Rosenberg that things really turned around. And that, at that point, I learned a little bit about him, and then I was living in Canada. I flew from Canada to Sweden. I spent about $5,500, more than I'd ever spent on any personal growth or anything before that, to fly to Sweden and spend almost a month with Marshall. How many of you are familiar with nonviolent communication? You know, if you're on the calls, you've heard, yeah. And that was a huge breakthrough for me, because I started to learn that there was an underlying system to communication that was transformational. And since then, I have taught in prisons, I have taught professors, I've taught therapists, counselors, at-risk youth. couples from all around the world. I've taught in Bali and Croatia and Hawaii and Alaska. And of all of the things I'm most proud of, I'm most proud of my incredible relationship with this woman right next. And let me be clear, it's not like a bed of roses and everything's perfect. We're on the hero's journey. And on the hero's journey, we run into all of this stuff.
That's very true.
So that's me. And if you end up with questions, you can type them in and I'll squint and look at the screen in a minute and see.
So to just quickly say a little bit about my background. So I have been creating curriculum and teaching transformational courses for about 20 years, a little bit longer. I started right out of college when I realized that the programs I was teaching in elementary schools was actually transforming the lives of children who were having some of the hardest time in school. And I started studying and realizing that the transformational work that I was doing really was so important that it was going to be my life's work. But that doesn't mean that everything was always rosy and nice. I actually had a lovely marriage, but over time, my marriage and my journey with my former husband started showing signs of, decay, basically. And what I learned from that was that relationships really are lots of work, and you really need to have, a coach or a mentor, or somebody who can actually help you through tough times. I have been through the ringer. I have had Lyme disease. I lost 4 babies. I started a company, an eco-friendly toy store and art studio in 2008, a month before the crash. That was every investment that we ever had, and it completely tore down our relationship. So my hero's journey was, from all of that, I realized that I had a lot of grit, because no matter how hard life had actually hit me, I kept getting back up. My former husband and I, we raised our daughter jointly in separate towns an hour away, and we have a fantastic relationship, and we work things out better now than we ever did in marriage. And that was because of applying my transformational techniques to our relationship. And I'm really proud of that, and that's what I bring into my relationship coaching: a lot of grit and a lot of not making a breakdown mean that it's the end of the world, actually seeing a breakdown as actually an opportunity for a huge breakthrough where you're not going to recognize yourself on the other side. I am a queen of that, and that's what I bring to this call today.
So how many of you are looking forward to having a breakthrough in your relationship?
Me. Yes.
How many of you are not looking forward to breakthroughs? Actually, see, I've got my little model here in the beginning.
John, that scratch of the eye, did that mean yes or no?
Thumb up, thumb down, breakthrough, yes, breakthrough, no.
I just want you to know we're watching all of you.
Except for those of you we're not watching.
Oh yeah, there's some people who are on voice.
So here in the beginning, let's see if I can get this right. In the beginning of a relationship, and I don't know if you can read it, it says, it's easy to win, hard to lose. And then what happens is there's this transition, and Sequoia just talked about it. There's that turning point. And that turning point, what happens is it becomes easy to lose and hard to win. And that's what starts the hero's journey. The hero rarely wants to take the journey. They're reluctant. They're resistant. It's like, no fucking way. Like, leave me alone. If you look at any of the movie models of it, but it's the same in life. We have life is good, and then something happens. And almost everybody on the call said, yes, they want a breakthrough. What almost nobody on the call wants is what makes a breakthrough possible. And what is it that makes a breakthrough possible? Just type real quick in the box, what is it that makes a breakthrough possible? Or raise your hand, whatever it is. You can raise your hand. And we heard pain, there's one thing that makes it possible. Courage, that also is true. The big thing that I realized is what makes a breakthrough possible, someone willing to try, is a breakdown. And that's the part that totally sucks, is breakthroughs normally happen on the far side of breakdowns. So what I want to do is I'm going to give you this picture here, and this is our comfort zone. And our comfort zone is like surrounded by a moat. And on the outside of, well, I'm asking you a question. The breakthroughs happen inside or outside of your comfort zone? Inside or outside? Outside. Yeah, it's like outside the comfort zone. And the challenge is what our brain is designed, one of our parts of our brain is designed to keep us safe. And so keeping us safe is to keep us inside the comfort zone. And what we really want is we want to be outside the comfort zone to have a breakthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, when I first got diagnosed with chronic pain and then later Lyme disease, I just wanted to die. I did not want to go down that path. I was like, absolutely not. It was absolutely the start of my hero's journey, because what I got out of that was my toughness, like what I could get through, right? So it did what people are saying. It required a lot of courage. It required a commitment to something bigger than what I was experiencing at the time. It was tons of pain, but I also had to get deep inside myself and find in myself my character. And it had me shed a lot of the stuff that just didn't serve me any longer. And that's actually what a breakdown will do, is it'll actually show you where things are not working, the stuff that needs to be let go of, so that you can actually create something new. That was what you're getting to, right?
Yeah, you're trying to create something new in your relationship. So what I wanted to do is do a quick partner share, and Scott's got it set up. And just take a second, talk to your partners. We're just going to give it like a minute total. But where do you want to break through in your life, in your relationships, or in your ability to get a relationship? Where is it you want to break through? And if you're with a partner on the call, talk to your partner and then type in your answers so we can all kind of share them, where you want to have a breakthrough. And I'll just start by being vulnerable here. In fact, I was on a call earlier today with Scott because I was in my breakdown. And where I'm creating breakthrough is having less and less of the past be in the present. Because this is not my first relationship, not my first rodeo. I've had my heart broken before, and some of those heartbreaks I see patterns here that look similar, so I react similar, and I go into reaction, which is actually comfortable, reacting, do it over, rather than responding and getting outside my comfort zone and being vulnerable. So that is where I want my biggest breakthrough, and that's where working with Scott and having a partner like Sequoia who will not settle for anything less. So what is the breakthrough that you want?
So do we have to set them up on that?
Scott's got them set up.
So I've got everybody set up. I would like to suggest, Paul, when I heard you say just a minute, I'd like to suggest that people have a little more than that time to really talk through a little bit. We've heard a lot of really great stuff from you two. But sometimes it takes time for people to really get in touch with what a breakthrough would look like. So I would personally like to suggest, maybe a total of 4 minutes so that people have a couple minutes each.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, so I am opening the rooms. You will all need to click. It'll say, join this room, and you just click, yes, I want to join. And Paul, I have put you and Sequoia in a room with Catherine Potter. And I think just about John Valera, I put you two together, so you need to still click join this room. Somewhere in there's a little button that says join this room. Stephen and Michaela, same thing. I've given you a room, so you got to click it, and you're going to be in your own room.
John's so cute.
Yes. Allison, you got to click join this room. You're in with Lawrence. I put you in a room with Lawrence, so just need you to click join this room. Thank you, Allison. And again, Stephen and Michaela, click join this room. Or are you frozen? Looks like they're frozen, actually. Okay. And Shakti Shiva Shailin, hello, glad you're with us. I'm going to mute and stop my video so I can eat some dinner. We can hear you now, Paul and Sequoia. We can hear you.
Yay.
Thank you.
And everybody else will be with us in a moment.
Thank you. Okay.
So, all right. Oh, we are unmuted?
We are unmuted.
Okay.
Yay.
So,
welcome back, everyone.
Who'd like to share with what they'd like in the area of breakthrough? We're going to get 1 or 2 shares, and then we're going to dive into all of this beautiful content here. So raise your hand. Wait. Okay, there we go.
John? Or no, Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Hi, Lawrence.
Hi guys, how are you?
Oh, great. Thank you so much for being on the call.
No, thanks for having us. As I was sharing with Allison, I think for me really is a breakthrough around being able to, when I'm triggered, and let's back up. First of all, becoming so solidly steeped in the language of NVC and beyond, as I like to always say, with the distinctions that Scott and
We
Emma.
have a frozen screen.
What's going on? No?
It's not frozen on my end. I can hear.
No?
I can see Lawrence.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Lawrence.
Okay, so it might be on their end. Okay.
Yeah, they
I think they're frozen.
Yeah, they're frozen. So they had the problem. Oops. So,
You want me to pause or?
well, I think, why don't you go ahead and continue and sharing with us? It is recording.
Okay.
I was just actually repeating to Emily what you were saying because I was so touched by it.
Yeah, so, so for me, it would be just becoming so solid in the distinctions of the work that when I am in a situation where I am triggered, I truly have the capability of, first of all, self-soothing and having the presence of mind to reach into this body of work and absolutely pull the right words, language that is actually in alignment with what I'm committed to in my life, which is being close in relationship with people I love and care about and not pulling away from them. And I think the breakthrough for me would be, the ability to self-soothe when I'm triggered and not take things personally, and B, being able to have the presence of mind and the capability with this body of language to be able to pick it up and use it so flawlessly at the right moment that creates that closer connection instead of the distance.
I'm so proud of you, Lawrence. And I want to just say you're taking the steps to do that. Lawrence has taken all of our classes. He's in our advanced relationship mastery course now. He took the relationship essentials course twice because he's so committed. He has also arranged for his daughters to work with Emily and I. Of course, his partner Julie has been doing the course with him. So I just really want to say, I so admire and appreciate your dedication to the breakthrough you're wanting, because you're doing the work, Lawrence. You're really doing that. So thank you, brother. And Emily's right here, and she sends her love and appreciation as well.
And we're back. We're on my cell phone now because for some reason the computer has once again chosen not to play fair. So thank you, Lawrence, very much. Hi, Emily. Was there anybody else that wanted to share? And Scott, I'm going to ask for a little more participation on your part so that I can't really move things around as much from here when I'm just on my little screen. So,
Who else would like to share?
you hold that and I'll try.
I've unmuted Allison.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Allison.
I think what's been a real struggle for me in my relationship that I would love a breakthrough. And I've been taking steps for 5 years now working on this, but I kind of came back to where I began, which is like getting to what's really deep down underneath my sort of somatic reaction when Bill, my partner, says that he would like to have sex with somebody else. And intellectually, I know, okay, it's a different flavor of ice cream, if you will. And it's not any more than that. But it's like this really deep, visceral, depressing. And so I finally today in an EMDR session got to, I think, a little bit more of, what's the familial tie into that. So, but I would still really like to continue breaking through to not be triggered and not take it personally and not be in pain when I hear that.
Thank you. That is the advanced world of training. That's, most people are triggered culturally. We're triggered. It has a whole set of baggage. So what a breakthrough is when something becomes possible that wasn't possible before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a breakthrough session, it can happen in a moment. It can happen over time. It's one of those things, but it really helps to know what area you're wanting a breakthrough in. And it also helps a lot in that specific scenario if your partner is very compassionate with you about the pain that gets triggered.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
they're not like, well, that's your shit and you should figure it out. That kind of that makes it even harder versus, wow, I can see that was really scary for you and hard. And
Right.
thank you for dancing with me and not making either set of needs wrong. That
Right.
you actually get both sets of needs beautifully met. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Scott, was there anybody else that is on there? We're still trying to get the computer to work.
Are you able to see gallery view, or is it that you're not able to see everybody?
I'm not able to see. I'm just able to see one at a time based on my little screen.
Okay.
We're on the
Okay.
phone right now.
Got it. Okay. So does anybody else want to share their breakthrough? David and Laura? Okay, I've unmuted David and Laura.
So I just want to say I concur with everybody's breakthroughs. I think we all have similar breakthroughs, which is basically when we're triggered, being able to self-soothe, self-source, and then say something that, like Doug said last week, that just doesn't make it worse. Right? I mean, it's just in the moment, not making it
Just said self-sourcing. Everybody wants self-sourcing.
Because, you know, we just, in that moment, we just say things to make it worse. And then it's like 5 times more the cleanup. And then you're talking about a problem that's not even the problem. It's just, you know, as Pema Chodron would say, it's just the Shempa. So that's a breakthrough that I want to continue to keep having. I do have moments of them, but, you know, my primitive brain always falls back. So, yeah.
Well, it's an exercise. It's a constant exercise. I've been working on this for a long time. My primitive brain still is alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
It has saved my life in many times and destroyed many relationships. So it's a mix. As an ex-commercial fisherman, it saved my life in multiple times. Be able to react like really quickly, and it really screws up relationship because I do what? I react really quickly and say shit that I later regret having said or behave in a way, or I start to look, and there's things that you can tell when you're in the primitive brain. One is you can't tell the difference, and this is important. This is like a writer-downer.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell the difference between enemies and allies when you're triggered.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to tie into what Lawrence was saying, but Lawrence, part of that skill is to be able to use those tools you're learning. Those tools don't work when you're triggered. The tools that work when you're triggered, you need the tools, and Emily and Scott teach them, we teach them, but it's the tools that get you back out of the reactive brain into the reasoning or the relating brain. So like if you're worried about enemy or ally, if you're being defensive, like if I see Sequoia and I'm, rather than seeing her as my enemy, my ally, I see her as the enemy. And I know I'm doing that when I want to defend myself. And she has certain tones of voice that tone of voice or that way of being. And it's like, I go right into, oh, I'm the little boy being attacked, and that reptile brain comes right out. So you can't tell enemy from ally. You can't tell time. So in other words, this is that whole PTSD thing. Someone who gets triggered, they're back in time. They feel like they're in Vietnam or in Iraq or Iran or wherever it is, or back at war or being raped again, or all of those traumatic things. And the other thing is you can't tell the difference between danger and discomfort. A lot of times we're just uncomfortable, but it feels dangerous. It feels life and death. You know, the laundry wasn't done. It's life and death. The dishes weren't done, or she came home late, or he came home late. And we react as if there's a threat to our life.
So, and what I'd like to add to that, because I'm a longtime Landmark advanced graduate, I do all of their advanced programs and have been with them for very many years. 20, no, no, that's, yeah, 20 years, about 20 years. So anytime you have a lack of freedom, power, or self-expression, you know that there is something that's being triggered from the past. And so the work to do, to get out of that is actually to clean up how the past is actually right there in front of your face. And it's like disguised as the person who's right there in front of you. So, Laura, I think you said something about cleanup work, right? That is the muscle to actually be training your mind, your body, and your spirit to have and it's not easy because we're not trained to be this way from being little kids. We're trained to feel ashamed for doing something wrong, right? So the first step is to actually call a breakdown. Just call it as it is. It's a breakdown. That's all it is. It's not nobody's bad, wrong, stupid, and then see where the lack of freedom, self-expression, and power is actually coming from. So once you can identify that, then you can actually go, oh my God, it's this past situation that's actually disguised as being the present argument, right? And then you can go into the cleanup mode and start strengthening the muscle. And every time you see it happening the next time, you see it sooner and sooner, so that one of the terms we use is get off it quicker, right? Well, you can actually feel the trigger coming on instead of actually having the trigger sweep you off into reptilian brain world. You can actually capture it and go, oh my God, the trigger is actually boiling. I can feel it in my belly. Oh my God, it's racing up to my heart chakra. I'm about to have a clamp down on my fifth chakra, right? So when you can actually get to that point, and it takes a while. It takes time to actually develop those muscles, because it's not the physical muscle. You're not lifting just weights. And that's why Paul and I actually consider our relationship to be a laboratory. And everything, we get support with everything, because the laboratory is, the universe will throw at you what you need to experience so that you can be the person that you're committed to being.
And part of the hero's journey, I talked about having superpowers. So the hero's superpower, and Lawrence, this is one of the superpowers in everybody, but one of the superpowers is, how do you deal with triggers without getting too sucked into the hole? I'm not going to say that you don't get sucked into the hole, but you spend less and less time in the hole and reacting quicker, or you get back to your heart and you go, honey, I'm totally triggered right now. Here's what I need to feel safe. Because what has to happen, so this is when your partner's triggered, don't try to logicalize them away, because the temptation is to go, you shouldn't feel triggered right now. That you'll watch that. It's like that's like pouring gas on the fire. Not only do they feel bad about being triggered, but now they feel guilty that they feel triggered, that they're ashamed. And so it spirals down. So what you need to do is get them to feel safe again. So honey, what do you need right now to feel safe? Because the reactive mind cannot understand logic. All they need to be moved back up into the reasoning or the relating. To lead with logic and love, they need to be in a different part of their brain. Is that making sense? So yes, no. Cool. Okay,
Thank you.
Good. And so that,
I wanted to just come in for one quick second, because there's something that you guys have been talking about that's really important, and that is veils of past pain. Mm-hmm. And I just like to name it, because it's one of the major things I work on as a coach with people. And certainly it's not the practice for tonight, but we could do an entire class of having people really identify the veils of past pain that stop them from seeing the world or another person clearly. And taking the time to do that, to identify what's my prior wounding, what are the things that hurt me, that is embedded in my cellular memory, that when I see something that is similar or feel something that's similar, the veil comes down, I go into reptile brain, I'm protecting myself, and I'm not seeing Paul or Sequoia or Emily clearly. So I just wanted to kind of name that for people.
yeah, John's got a question there.
Yes. Am I unmuted? Muted or? No?
Yes, we hear you, John.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So I think one of the things, I think you bring up a good point is, one of the kind of fail points or difficulties I think personality wise, I tend to be like the fixer, and maybe that's like profession wise, being a doctor. So if I see someone upset, I try to go right away to what can I do to fix it. But it's almost like that's one of the skills I think that I need to learn is how to back up and create that safety, because I think I tend to go in and do what you were saying, like this, needs to be fixed, but then maybe that creates more guilt and almost has the repelling, so it actually, like you said, it makes everything worse instead of making it better.
Yeah, because it makes them wrong for being where they're at. If you can meet them where they're at, then it's easy to move them. But if you tell them that they shouldn't be where they're at, it makes it harder. That you end up with a lot of resistance. Yeah. So we're going to mute this phone for a second. I think we can join ourselves back on the big computer. So turn this puppy down here.
Thank you for bearing with us that one's muted.
Okay, unmute that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
You talk.
I removed that one.
Did anybody else have something they wanted to share about what they saw and what they're looking for a breakthrough in their relationship? Go ahead and raise your hand and I'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. Let's see who wants to go. Thank you, John, for that, by the way. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, your name has Laura on it, and I know that your name is actually more than Laura.
Hi, I'm David.
Hi, David.
Hello, Sequoia. Oh, the better question is, what don't I want to have a breakthrough in? Man,
I am with you.
So many things. There's so many things.
What's the most important one?
To learn to control my reaction.
Mm.
I mean, Paul hit on it so vividly earlier. I've got 12 years Army in my background, and talking about the survival mechanism to keep me safe is still alive and well. And everything he was talking about was just so spot on for where I'm at. And I was in a marriage for 26, 27 years. And so Laura and I have been in this relationship for 3. And so there's a completely different relating pattern. And, I find myself like the consummate student all the time. I mean, it's like the learning cap is always on. And, I'll feel regret, or I'll feel, I'll have regrets because I feel stupid, or I feel like this is too tough for me to learn, or there's not enough time in a day for me to figure this out. If I try to remember what the words are, not make it worse, and then if I don't say them just perfectly, if I get corrected, that just sends me through the moon. Because it's like, you get 50% of the words right. You know what? Go back to the drawing board. And I just, those are the things I would love to be able to just let slide off my back and be able to say, yeah, you know what? I'm learning. David, you're learning. You're still learning. It's okay. But I try, I hold myself to such a higher level, and it's probably because of my past veils of pain and all the shit that I have going on in my head that I do have, I believe I have, I don't know if it's a learning disability now, but it's definitely memory loss. So my short-term memory is just not, for the most part. I'm sorry, who are you? Anyways. So, it's very frustrating for me because she's my absolute best friend, but sometimes she's my absolute enemy and I can't stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, David, so much for your courage and vulnerability. That's something that Paul and I find is one of the best skills to actually, or best tools to have in the beginning, is just having the courage and vulnerability combined, so that you both can just be gentle with each other, like gentle with yourself first, right? And I think that that's part of courage, like to not expect yourself to not be scared, but like to get to the other side of the fear of, you know, making a mistake, especially when you've been through what you've been through. You know? So thank you.
I wanted to tap into one thing here. And I'm going to say it for you, David, for everybody, but you're all here because you want a different result. A breakthrough is a result. So what's it take to create a result? We have a dog that decided to join us here. He wants a breakthrough. Anyway, to get a breakthrough, you have to take action. And what controls the results you get or don't get is the actions you take or don't take. Now, what controls the actions you take or don't take? So type in the chat box, what do you think this is right here that controls the actions? I'll wait a second to get some answers in there. The magic word is your breakthrough. Well, breakthrough is definitely part of it. Fear, yep. Brain. Yeah, it's a part of your brain. It's a thought. People are answering. I'm going to kind of jump ahead because of the time factor. It's your beliefs. And the problem is your beliefs are invisible. And the thing is, David, most of us spend a lot of time working here on the actions, hoping the actions are going to change the results, but they don't actually do that deep, heavy lifting. This is the kind of stuff that, like, Scott and Emily do in Relationship Essentials that we do. It's like if you get and change some of your core beliefs, that's what drives your relationship and often destroys your relationship. And what we talked about I don't think I've said it in this workshop, but many others, is your ROS. Your ROS is your relationship operating system. And this looks like it's backwards. So I don't know if it's backwards for you guys or not, but your ROS is your relationship operating system. It's your habits, patterns, and underlying beliefs. And to get big long-term change, what you actually have to do is get inside and figure out what are the old beliefs that are getting in the way, that are stopping you. So it's like if you've had a bunch of pain in relationships, you might be in a relationship where your belief is you can't trust women. Women will always hurt you, or it could be men will always leave you, whatever it is. And you want to be in a relationship with one. So it's like having one foot on the brake, one foot on the gas. And the problem is most beliefs are invisible unless you've done research, unless you've actually like sat down and done that work, that hard-ass work to bring it from the unconscious to the conscious mind and then make the transformation. Is that making sense? So you really need to get in and figure out your relationship operating system. And here's the thing is that most people, when they buy a computer, it comes with an operating system and it never changes. I don't know how to go in and change my computer operating system. It gets updated because Apple sends me something that says, update your operating system. I go, okay, press a button. But I really don't know anything about it. And the thing is, your operating system was created by an angry, hurt 6 or 7-year-old. And now a lot of the decisions you're making as an adult in a relationship are based on that operating system.
So a really great example of that, I shared this with Scott last Tuesday on Paul and my coaching session with them. There are times when I get really intense in our relationship and in all things that I do. And I have done 20 years of work to figure out why I'm operating this way. And it comes down to several originating incidences, which we call them. And one in particular, my grandfather, who was somebody who raised me and was like the patriarch of my family, and who I loved and adored. And he was a man who's so beautiful and sweet and adored me like a princess. At 6 years old, he was crushed by his car and killed. And this was like where I would spend time with him beside his car while he's a mechanic. And I saw at one point in my discovery and my research of my operating system, I saw that how I react to situations where somebody does something that they, weren't totally set up to be safe about, or doing something what I consider my 6-year-old considers wrong. I have to go in and save them from themselves or from other people. So I have this real tenacious, energy around things, because I have this I have a really big heart. I love people very deeply, and I don't want anybody to ever experience that again. Well, that's pretty intense energy. And that actually comes at my partner, because it's the operating system of my reptilian survival mechanism. It's just like, you can't put the dishes in the dishwasher that way. Don't you understand? Everything is going to crash and burn. So it's very intense. But I've done that work. So when I feel that coming up in my body, I can actually feel the sensations. Then I can actually be on the front end of, oh, look at that. I'm having this experience that's very similar to when I was 6. Right? But it takes some time to actually exercise that muscle once you've actually pulled the things that you're like, literally you're blind to. You're pulling them from behind and going, oh, look at that. That's what I'm doing, right? And it made all the difference for Paul and I for him to hear that that's what's really going on. And not only that, but then me be responsible on my side for when that happens, to actually clean up the mess of it, be responsible to make sure that I strengthen my ability to have that not be an automatic trigger or reaction. Does that translate and help?
It seemed like it translates, but
good.
I'm sitting here. I need to know what they think. They can give us thumbs up or not.
Awesome.
So I'd like... that whole thing, the breakdown, breakthrough model, it's outside the comfort zone, the breakthrough is. And it's what gets us outside the comfort zone is we're at risk. We don't know what's going to happen, being vulnerable. And especially for the masculine, we're not taught to be vulnerable. We're taught that vulnerability equals weakness. And what I want to say is a hero's journey, it takes courage. And there's something called courageous vulnerability, powerful vulnerability. It's reaching and going, I want to get outside the comfort zone. And I know that I don't know exactly what's going to happen. And that's why it's good to have support. If you're up to a big mission, you basically need big support. And like, one of our clients that I was working with, for me to work with somebody, I don't do anything unless they make a 3-month commitment. Like I'll do a 1 breakthrough session where we do an hour and we really help them find out where they want to go and what they're doing. But as far as ongoing work, unless they make a 3-month commitment, we don't get started, because I know in the middle of it, it's going to suck. It really is. It's like remodeling a house. In the middle of remodeling a house, you're going to wonder what the fuck you were thinking. Any of you gone through remodeling a house? You know what I'm talking about? So some of you do. Anyway, this couple, he during the 3 months, he wanted to move out of the house like 2 or 3 different times. And then he goes like, damn, we have the session with Paul tomorrow, so I can't move out today, but I'm going to move out after our session. And if he didn't make the 3-month commitment, he would have been gone. And without the breakthroughs, we had many breakthroughs. So it's like putting your ass on the line and not even making a commitment to your partner, making a commitment to yourself. Like, I'm going to do this because I know that if I don't stay in this until I have this breakthrough, I'm bailing on myself. It's not even bailing on your partner. And so there's 4 different ways that you can, that's 4 different ways you can play the game. And I thought about this. I was playing racquetball, and I was playing, and the score was, any of you played racquetball? Wave your hand, like, okay, few of you. So you played, it's like in a box. It's like tennis in a box with a better ball. And you played a 15, and the score was 3-13, I think. I had 3. My partner had 13. And she was small. She was like this ever-ready bunny zipping around. And if I'm not totally on my game, she would kick my butt. And so I was standing there. It's about to serve, and I basically given up in my mind. I was playing not to lose, but just to look good. Like, okay, I'm going to do a couple of serves, and the game will be over. She'll win. And at that point, I made a decision. So some of you are going to be at making a decision, because making a breakthrough starts really with a decision that you're going to push through, that you're not going to quit when you get to the comfort zone, to the edge, that resistance, that resentment, that
Hey, Scott, are you there? We lost Paul. Anybody got a good story you want to tell?
And we lost Scott. They're all gone.
I arrived late, and I would appreciate hearing what the original question was that people are answering, please.
It was about where you want to break through. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we seem to have lost the facilitators.
Yes.
Both sets.
Yes, both sets. All right, I think I'm gonna go away. Anyway, we'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
I just learned from Emily, who's watching, that Paul and Sequoia dropped out again. So,
Yeah, about 3 or 4 minutes ago.
oh my gosh. So I was just making myself
about
making
5 minutes. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
Oh, there they are coming back onto the phone. All right. Sorry about that, you guys. Sorry about the technical problems we've been having with them. We are dependent on our technology.
We are here.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
All right, girly.
Yes, we can hear you, Paul.
Things are, do you want to grab yourself a plate?
Okay. So, wow. I'm going to have to breathe because that was a perfect example of totally triggered. My phone had become the enemy, my computer become the enemy, and I wanted to stomp on it. So that probably wouldn't have helped the situation at all. Sequoia was right next to me, just breathing. I could feel her energy. Just like going, I'll be calm. I'm not going to say anything. I'll be calm. So she did not exacerbate my triggeredness. So I just want to acknowledge that we all get there, and it's like, how quickly can we get back? And so thank you. And what I'd like to do is hear from everybody. What have they got? And we're getting sort of on the far side of this call, and there's something I want to really cover at the end. I'm going to bring it to a summary at the end, but I want to hear from people. What did you get from what we've covered so far, and what would it be like in your life to really master this?
Yeah, go. Is it
Michaela?
Michaela?
Hi there.
Yeah. Hi.
I'm Steve. This is Michaela.
Oh, hi, Steve.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to share that I absolutely just love the frameworks that you've used to present this information, like the relationship operating system and the beliefs, action, results triangle. I'm not sure if you've came up with any of those pieces, but they're just amazing. And I really adore really well put together frameworks like that. And so I just wanted to celebrate that and just let you know that the way that that's packaged, I found really insightful and very easy to digest and really take in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all this guy. He does a great job of taking something that's hard to understand and really putting it into simple terms. So he does a great job with that.
I think it was thank you for that, years of working, in the world of quality control and quality systems and studying with people like Tony Robbins and working for him. And so, yeah, it's a gift and a curse. So what did anybody else get out of this? So thank you, Steve and Michaela. And okay?
Yeah, it looks like.
It says Mark, but that doesn't look like Mark.
Lady Mark.
Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yay! My name is Joy, and one thing that I have been actually cycling through quite a few relationships that I think have shown from past lives into present in my own belief is just acceptance. And remembering not to bring the past into the present and to be aware when we're choosing to do that. And as soon as that thought starts to creep in, it's like, nope, that's not this person. It's just showing a similar loop, and it's knowing when to stop it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Joy, I like to call that unconditional acceptance. We like to say, unconditional love, but I think the best thing that all of us can do is actually bring into existence unconditional acceptance. Like accepting people exactly where they are and exactly where they aren't. That doesn't mean it makes it okay when anybody does something that, we have a boundary around or something that doesn't work for us. It just means that we are managing our own nervous system to, not have whatever's going on with somebody else pull us off our center. So unconditional acceptance. That was really a beautiful example of that with what
Yay.
you Joy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then let's see. I don't know everybody yet, but it's
Mark, I think
M-A-R-C.
M-A-R-C. Yeah.
Twang. I saw you
Sasha. That would be Sasha,
Sasha.
who's using her beloved Mark's system. So I've unmuted you, Sasha.
Oh,
You're with us, sweetie.
so for me, it's learning again how to manage when can you hear me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
When I'm triggered by past pain, that just overcomes me. So that, and especially when I feel that I'm not being met the way I would like to be met, or not getting the kind of empathy that I want, that it just explodes inside me, the feelings, the past feelings of hurt and anger. So for me, it's being able to recognize that, to be able to give myself the empathy without lashing out at the other person.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge.
That's really beautiful, Sasha. I like what you said, is giving yourself empathy. I think it's very connected to what Joy was just saying. You know, when you can actually self-source, I know it's something that Emily talks about. When you can actually give yourself empathy, you're actually forgiving yourself also, you know, and self-forgiveness is a really important first step to being able to forgive others. It's actually one of the harder ones to do, but it's also really important for self-sourcing. So yeah, I love that you brought that up, the giving yourself empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Thank you. Let's give her twinkle fingers here. Thank you. And then you mute yourself, and let's see if there's anybody else. One other person that got something from this. We're having to kind of scroll through here and see, because we're on. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is it Lusana? Hi, Lusana. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Apologies for arriving late. I was needing a nap, so self-care came first. So both this past week, since our last session, and through Paul, what you also said in terms of commitment to going through it, I've had things come up personally, just old stuff, old beliefs, and the commitment to go through it, you know, to go through that shit coming up, go through the pain of it, and be able to see it. Okay, I can recognize where it's coming from, but I'm still feeling the reactivity to it, and saying, but I choose to get through this so that I don't layer this and project this onto other people, you know, in the future. So it also goes into self-sourcing and self-forgiveness for having carried that old stuff that I learned, you know, as a child, the belief systems that were handed down, and just choosing when I can choose, you know, being willing, okay, right now it's really hard, or so I'm choosing how can I self-source in a nutritious way, not a self-abuse way, but a nutritious way, and to have the faith I can get through this. I can get through this, and you know, even if I'm not at the point of already catching it early or whatever, I'm in the middle of it. Oh well, you know, I'm in it, and I'm willing to keep going. And that commitment, self-commitment, to me is huge. You know, to not be afraid of things arising and things being brought forward, and the emotions that come with that. To commit that I'll get through this, and I am getting through it. Not I will, I am getting through it.
And see what runs your relationships, and for everybody, and you just brought it up, Lusana, is what you're willing to feel and what you're not willing to feel.
Yes.
And see, if I'm not willing to feel a certain amount of pain or jealousy that some other people brought up in the call earlier, like, so I'm going to do something. Either I'm going to try to suppress my partner from doing anything that scares me, or I'm going to suppress the feelings when they come up. So that can be alcohol, drugs, food, unconscious, whatever it is. So the more that we're willing to be with all the different feelings that come up, like Sequoia said, the acceptance part, which some days it's like, I want to be here later. I don't want to be here now. This sucks. This feels like shit. It's like, I'll be here tomorrow. And it's a courageous journey. This is where, from the very beginning, we talked about this as the hero's journey. The hero's journey, like at one of the points in Star Wars, I think Luke has, when he meets Yoda, has to go into the dark cave, and the scariest thing that's in the dark cave is himself, his own fears and doubts and thoughts. And you look at in prison, because I spent 8 years teaching in prison, one of the biggest punishments you can get is solitary confinement, being locked up with your own thoughts. Like, that is the worst thing. And if we study and can make friends with our thoughts, it's like, well, okay, it kind of sucks to be in solitary confinement, but I love myself. I'm with good thoughts. Does that make sense? So thank you, Lusana, for that. And we'll just scroll through and see if anybody else had anything else that they got from the call. And then I'm going to do a quick review, and then we're going to bounce out of here. So anybody else want to make a comment before we do our big empowering wrap up? Okay, so back to slide number 1. Comfort zone. Breakthroughs, do they happen inside or outside your comfort zone? Breakdowns happen right at the edge. This is where you're at the breakdown. A breakthrough is when you push through and get into the discomfort. You move through the resistance. And what you're trying to do is have a breakthrough that possibly changes your beliefs. And the more that you can deal with your core beliefs, if you deal with your core beliefs, it changes everything. You deal with surface beliefs, it hardly changes anything. You change a core belief, it changes your actions, it changes your results. And that's where the work, like with Scott and Emily, the work with us, all the rest of that, it's like, how do you get down to the core beliefs that are driving and sometimes wrecking your relationship? Are your beliefs limiting or empowering? And I know for me, sometimes I set up beliefs when I'm in pain. I'll never do that again. That's too dangerous. That's too scary. That's too painful. That's not an empowering belief. The other part is what starts the journey here, and thank you. She's holding the camera and the thing. It's like when we look in the beginning of the relationship, easy to win, hard to lose, and then it comes over and it becomes, and I think we're doing, no, I have it backwards. Easy to win, hard to lose. Over here, it's easy to lose and hard to win. And that's where the hero's journey really starts. And the idea of the hero's journey is to have the breakthrough. And part of it, if you look at almost every hero that starts out, Luke had the Yoda. Each of the, I forget, in Harry Potter had Dumbledore. And each of these heroes, when they're on the hero's journey, they have a mentor. While they're discovering and developing their superpower, they have a mentor.
And not only that, they're up to something bigger than themselves.
Yes.
That's something I also wanted to add in, Lusana, while you were talking. One of the things that got me to get through some of the worst times of my life with Lyme disease and also really terrible divorce and have a really great relationship with my former husband is my love for my daughter that was so huge that I was not willing to have her have the experience of what I saw divorces from when I was a kid. So I was so committed to that. That was a commitment that I had that was way beyond whether or not I was comfortable, right? And so I had to go through a lot of getting myself comfortable with uncomfortable. And that's the thing about the hero's journey. Hero's journey is not comfortable, but you're not going to go into uncomfortable places just because you're going into uncomfortable places. you're actually going to go into uncomfortable places because you have a commitment to something that's way bigger than yourself. And that's a very important component. And what Paul is talking about is all of this journey. What's required is a mentor, somebody who can actually, be there for you when you feel like all is lost. Like I can't go one more step in the shoes of this suffering.
Yeah, because they can see things that you can't see. So, John, can I ask you a couple of quick questions? Can you unmute yourself?
Yep.
All right. So you're a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
How I want to become a doctor, and I'm thinking about studying for a couple of weekends. I want to read a couple of articles, and then I want to go in and start doing surgeries. What do you think?
Yeah, enough help from Dr. Google, you can maybe get on your way. But yeah, but no, you do want, like you were mentioning, you do want a mentor. Reading the textbooks, only gets you so far. And even checking Google only takes you so far. And even when you're a doctor and in practice, you always learn that there's more and more experience that you have to recognize subtle things that sometimes you would, I know that, I might see things now that, a decade ago I would have missed myself, just from experience of seeing kind of things play out. And I think it's the same thing with relationships too. Until you played it out, you've been through it, you're not going to see, you can always look back. And I think that's one of the things that I struggle with myself is like the hindsight is always clearer than it is as it was when you go through it. And you're like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. And I guess that's why they call it the practice of medicine. And I guess that's like the practice of relationships then, Well,
it is. And the other distinction I'm leading the witness here.
Okay.
But I'm guessing you didn't dabble your way into becoming a doctor.
No.
You made a commitment to mastery.
Oh my gosh, yeah. A lot of hours of commitment. Yeah.
Not hours, years, like years and years to get to where you are now. And what most people, and I've had a lot of doctors as clients, and they said that even though being a doctor was one of the most challenging things they ever did, what was more challenging is being a parent and being in a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens, though, is very few people dedicate what you did to being a doctor. Very few people dedicate a quarter of that or an eighth of that to being in a relationship. Yeah. In fact, the other day, and thank you for playing with me, I had two veterinarians on the line. I was coaching them, and I asked the guy, they're married, and I said, have you ever been trained in relationships? Well, he says, I've had relationships before. Yeah. And I said, I've had pets before.
Right.
It doesn't make me a veterinarian, it makes me a pet owner.
Right.
And unless people actually get on this and go for mastery, they rarely master it. They've had relationships, but they're not relationship masters. And that's why Scott and Emily's course and all the rest of it. So thank you for just playing with me for a minute there, John.
No problem. Yeah, and I think it's great. I mean, I think what you mentioned too, like trying to get that formal, I think that's why I'm here now, like trying to get that training, the more of the, finding some way to get that knowledge and information and maybe learn from the masters, other masters or other people who have gone through it and have had that experience to try to gain some insight that, I'd like to continue to advance on this journey now too.
And it starts with being on the court. It starts with actually being out there and practicing. Like you said, mastery starts with the apprenticeship, and that only happens when you're actually in the field working on it, right? So you've done a great job in filling yourself with the experience and following masters like Scott and Emily. Good job.
Thank you. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up with an idea. And if you're already on the court, as Sequoia just said, and you're in like Relationship Essentials or Relationship Mastery or something like that, I just want to acknowledge you and say good for you, because that's a good place to be. If you're not currently doing something like that and you want a breakthrough, what you can do is get a hold of Sequoia and I'll give you a phone number and set up a relationship breakthrough session. And it's about an hour long. And what we do is help you get clear where you are, where you want to go, and what's in the way. Where is the edge of your comfort zone? And what's it going to take to have that breakthrough? And a lot of times breakthrough sessions can cost $500 to $1,500, because sometimes you don't get a breakthrough the first session. If they're not good at making distinctions, it might take a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. But it's worth it to get that breakthrough. And what Sequoia and I decided to do, in honoring Scott and Emily, and it's a complimentary breakthrough session, and you will find out where your edges are and what's the next step to take. So if you want to do that, hopefully you have your pen out. You write down 303-807-0159. And I would have done that in the chat box, but I don't even know where the chat box is here on my phone. So 303-807-0159, and either text us or give us a call. We're in California time. So, there we go. We can actually do it.
Okay, you keep talking and
I'm going to keep talking. So,
yes.
go ahead.
I wanted to come in. I don't know what's going on with technology today. First, my keyboard didn't work. Now my cursor isn't working. That's why I came in on my phone, because I can't even unmute myself on my computer. I'm hoping if I restart it, hopefully it'll work. But I just want to say a big thank you to Paul and Sequoia for just sharing these wonderful tools, facilitating the class, despite the challenges with the technology gods. And I want to just really acknowledge each person who's come on board. There's a lot of ways we can spend our Monday night, including watching the Warriors win the NBA championship. And I really appreciate each and every person who's joining us and all your commitment. I mean, most of the people here are in relationship mastery. But those of you who aren't, thank you. Most of you have gotten coaching from us. And coaching with Paul and Sequoia is a great choice. Everybody offers sometimes different visions, and also sometimes you hear similar things or even the same thing from multiple coaches, and it helps to lock it in even more. So I want to say thank you to Paul and Sequoia, and thank you to everybody for joining us. And hopefully
Thank you for having us, Scott.
And we'll see many of you on Relationship Mastery on Sunday, and hopefully the rest of you next Monday night.
Bye-bye.
I don't know that it's off.
I don't either.
It's still on. It shows recording.
Woohoo!
Oh,
So can you turn it off if Scott can't?
we are
Paul
rapidly
is
trying.
closing everything right now. It's now on your knee.